Ascent Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents The One Truth, Elevate Your Mind, Unlock Your Power, Heal Your Soul, by Jon Gordon. Narrated by Jon Gordon. Publisher's note: this audiobook contains references to visuals present in the print and ebook editions of the book. For Catherine, Jade, and Cole, I love you forever. Book 1. A Higher State of Mind. Introduction. I remember playing Little League Baseball, standing on the mound, throwing a pitch, and hitting a batter with the ball. The next batter walked up to the plate, and I hit him too. I looked over at my dad, who was the manager of the team, and he gave me a dirty look and yelled at me to throw strikes. The next batter got up, and the first pitch was out of the strike zone. Then I threw another bad pitch. I looked over at my dad again, and I could see the anger and frustration on his face. Each time I looked over, he just stared at me and shook his head. I threw the next pitch and hit the batter in the leg. The fourth batter walked to the plate, and I could see him shaking as he prepared to get hit with the ball. Everyone watching knew I couldn't find the strike zone, and everyone, including him, knew what was coming next. Yes, I hit him too. My dad walked to the mound, replaced me with another pitcher, told me to go play shortstop, and finally took me out of my misery. Ever since then, I've been searching for ways to be mentally tough. In 8th grade, I told my mom I was depressed and thought about killing myself. She started screaming, "What do you mean you want to kill yourself? Why would you say that?" She freaked out so much that I somehow snapped out of it to calm her down. I said, "Mom, it's okay. I'll be fine." And we never talked about it again. It's probably why 40 years later, I'm good at suppressing my emotions, and why my brother says he eats his feelings. In high school, before football and lacrosse games, I would talk to myself during warm-ups and pump myself up to get ready for the game. I would say things like, "You got this. You're going to play great. Go for it. Eye the tiger." I trained a lot, worked really hard, and always had to earn my starting positions. The coaches never made it easy for me. I often wondered why I always had to prove myself while other players were named the starter without contest. Years later, I realized it made me stronger and grittier, and it taught me what I would need to succeed in college and life. I was mostly recruited for college football, but decided to go to the one school that recruited me for lacrosse, Cornell University. I traveled as a freshman, was a 3-year starter, and had a decent college career. Yet I know I could have been so much better. I played with a lot of fear and worried more about making mistakes and getting benched than having fun and playing the game. I dealt with a lot of injuries and rarely played healthy. I struggled mentally and physically with the pressure, stress, and demands of being a Division I athlete, and yet I never gave up. Quitting was not an option. I endured and persevered, but would describe my time on the field of play as a job, not joy. I played with a clenched fist, not a smiling face. I wish I could have done it differently, but unfortunately, no one told me there was a different way. After college, I became an entrepreneur, met my wife, had 2 kids, and then saw my life and career crumble before my eyes as the company I was involved with crashed during the dot-com bust. I had become more negative, miserable, and fearful than ever, and was blaming my wife for why our life was so bad and why I wasn't realizing my dreams. She had enough of my negativity and said that she loved me, but she wasn't going to spend her life married to someone who was so miserable, and that if I didn't change, it was over. I looked at myself in the mirror, and I knew a lot had to change, and I began a quest to become a more positive, mentally tough person. She wanted me to go on medication, but I told her I wanted to try to do it in a more holistic way. I began researching the emerging field of positive psychology. I read various studies on gratitude, happiness, meditation, and optimism, and started to put into practice some of these new and exciting ideas. I started taking thank you walks, which I'll share later in the book, and practicing self-talk like I did back in high school. I began meditating, which led to walks of prayer, and I created a success journal at night. As I was practicing these ideas and finding much-needed improvements, I began sharing my ideas and practices with others via a weekly e-newsletter, which led me to writing books and speaking. Now, 20 years later, I'm a better husband and father who has helped millions develop a positive mindset and become a positive leader. I realize now that my entire life has been a quest to get better and to help others get better as well. I've been seeking the keys to improve mental health and become mentally tough. I searched for and shared the tools, habits, and answers for overcoming the fear that wrecks us, the negativity that sabotages our goals, the pressure that rattles our foundation, and the anxiety that limits and weakens us. I've researched and read, learned and taught, trained and developed, written and shared countless ideas in my books to help others win the battle of their mind. As I've become more positive and mentally tough, I've been able to help others do the same. I've had a lot of ideas and answers, but I didn't have the answer. I learned about high state of mind and low state of mind years ago from my friend Garrett Kramer, but last summer it became clear that it was part of the one truth and the answer I had been searching for. As I walked each day and thought about the mind, brain, soul, consciousness, energy, and our everyday experiences in reality, I was filled with a greater understanding of how it all works and a practical, powerful way to teach it. I spent the summer teaching it to NFL quarterbacks, NHL general managers, NBA superstars, professional and college coaches, as well as teenagers struggling with anxiety and depression, and they got it and reported breakthroughs. I then shared it with several professional and college teams during training camp, as well as at several large corporate sales meetings. The response was incredible and like nothing I have ever shared before. I knew I needed to write this book immediately to impact as many people as possible, including you. I am absolutely convinced that everything in my life has brought me to this moment to share the one truth with you. The pain, the suffering, the experience on the pitching mound, the struggle with depression, the fear that almost made me crumble, the negativity that almost destroyed me and my marriage, the ideas I've had, the teams I've worked with, the conversations I've had with my friends Garrett Kramer, Erwin McManus, Malachi Rhodes, plus the books I've previously written have all prepared me to share this life-changing and next-level teaching and understanding with you right here, right now. In the sections that follow, I'm going to share with you the key to mental toughness, high performance, mental health, and living with power and peace. I know these are bold claims, but I'm confident that once you listen and learn what I teach you in this book, it will all make sense, and you will nod your head in agreement. These ideas will resonate deeply within you because they are the truth that already exists inside of you. Deep down, you already know the truth I'm about to teach you. That's why as you listen to this book, it will feel more like you are remembering than learning as I share examples that confirm what you have thought, felt, and experienced before. You just didn't have words or a framework to explain it. But now you do. And I'm excited to see how remembering, understanding, and living the one truth impacts your mindset, perspective, and life. The one truth and the ultimate way to master your mindset begin with a question I'll answer in Chapter 1. Chapter 1. States of Mind. Is it the traffic? One day you're stuck in traffic and it bothers you. The next day in the same traffic, it doesn't. Is it the traffic making you feel a certain way? If that was the case, it would make you feel the same way all the time. And it would make everyone feel the same way. One day you're listening to a song or podcast or just in a great mood and the traffic doesn't faze you. Another day, you're pressed for time, have a lot of errands to run, and while sitting in traffic, you start screaming. So if it's not the traffic, what is it? Let's look at other examples to find the answer. A salesperson makes calls every day to acquire new customers and business. One day they receive a rejection from a potential customer and it really bothers them. They feel insecure and start to question themselves, their capabilities, and their future. Another day they face the same exact kind of rejection, but they move on and make another call with confidence that they will experience success. Is it the rejection that made them feel a certain way? Consider the pandemic of 2020. Many struggle with their mental health during and after the pandemic, while others thrived. If you read many of the articles about that time, watch the news, and listen to conversations, you would hear people blame the pandemic for causing people to be a certain way. But as we have seen in previous examples, if it was solely the pandemic itself, then everyone would have responded to it the same way. The fact that they didn't tells us there is another reason. To figure this out, let's consider one final example. Remember in school when you had a paper or project due and you couldn't get started? You were paralyzed by fear or mentally stuck and unable to write or create it. But then you had a burst of clarity and were able to accomplish it. What happened? What changed? Was it the paper or project that caused you to feel a certain way? It's always your state of mind. The answer is that it's not the circumstance, environment, pandemic, test, project, or event that makes you feel a certain way. It looks like it is, but it's not. A closer look reveals it's always your state of mind. If your state of mind is low when the circumstance happens, it affects you a certain way. If your state of mind is high when the circumstance happens, you're able to rise above it, overcome it, and move forward. When you make a mistake on the field, on stage, in a meeting, or in a sales call, and you're in a low state of mind, it really bothers you, and you start to question yourself and your performance. But if you make the same mistake while you're in a high state of mind, you just brush it off and move forward. You have a next play, next moment mindset, and look forward to the next opportunity. We've all experienced what it feels like to be in a low state of mind and how great it feels when we are in a high state of mind. What characterizes low and high states of mind? A low state of mind is characterized by a lot of thought, a lot of clutter, fear, anxiety, worry, insecurity, and or doubt. A high state of mind consists of a lot of clarity, focus, belief, and confidence. If you've ever been in the zone or engrossed in the moment or doing something you love without a lot of thinking going on, that is what a high state of mind feels like. And if you have ever felt fearful with lots of thoughts swirling in your head, making you anxious and tired, then you know what a low state of mind feels like. 2 circles. Consider 2 circles representing your state of mind. One circle has a few dots. The other circle has thousands of dots. They represent our minds. The one with a lot of dots is filled with a lot of thought and clutter, while the other has less thought and more clarity. Which mind is at a higher state and which will perform at a higher level? Everyone who I have shared this with and asked these questions to has the same answer. The circle with less dots, less clutter, has more clarity and is at a higher state of mind. We all intuitively know the truth and know the answer. At this point, like most people, you're likely having a lot of thoughts about what I just shared and wondering how to have less clutter in order to move from a low state of mind to a high state of mind, or how to maintain a high state of mind when it is high. I promise I'm going to share the best way to achieve and maintain a high state of mind. But before I do, it's essential to understand how thoughts work and what lowers our state of mind. The roller coaster. Imagine you're on a roller coaster and you've never been on one before. You don't know that the roller coaster will go back up. So as you race downhill, you think the roller coaster is going to crash. What would you want to do in that moment if you thought the cart you were in was going to smash into the ground? You would want to jump off and escape. When you're in a low state of mind, you want to jump off and escape. It's why people overdrink, do drugs, play video games, and do all sorts of other things to escape the feeling they have when they are in a low state of mind. As an athlete, you don't want the ball when you're in a low state of mind. You want to escape, so you hope the ball doesn't come your way, or you pass it back to your teammate. As a salesperson, you don't want to make the sales call when you're in a low state of mind. As a performing artist, you don't want to be on stage in a low state of mind. As a teenager, you don't want to go to school or even get out of bed when you're in a low state of mind. You want to escape the uncomfortable feelings, and you often want to escape the reality of life. Revved up thinking. In addition to wanting to escape when you're in a low state of mind, you also can find yourself searching for answers. You have a lot of doubt, and the insecurity can make you think something's wrong. You start searching for answers to try to fix the feeling that something is broken. This leads to more thinking and more clutter, and thus a lower state of mind. Baseball provides a great analogy. A batter goes 0 for 4, 0 for 3, and 0 for 4 in 3 straight games. Without a hit in 3 straight games, they start thinking something is wrong. They examine their swing and wonder if something is broken. The more they think about it, the more they have anxiety. Their revved up thought increases clutter and lowers their state of mind, causing them to experience a major slump, which leads to more questioning, more thought, more clutter, more frustration, and an even lower state of mind. Does this sound familiar? It happens to all of us in every profession and in everyday life. Think of a guy on a date. He says something that upsets the woman he likes, and the date goes horribly. On his next date with another woman, he is cautious and anxious and doesn't want to say the wrong thing. He has revved up thought and a low state of mind. The energy isn't flowing, and she declines a second date. Now the guy is questioning everything and feeling even more insecure, which could lead to a downward spiral. So what should you do when this happens to you? There is an ebb and flow to thought. Our reality is a world of duality. There is light and dark, good and bad, up and down, love and hate, high and low. As human beings, we experience an ebb and flow of thought, high states of mind and low states of mind. You might even experience different states a few minutes apart, or experience one state for a longer period of time before experiencing another state. You might experience a high state on Friday night and a low state on Sunday night as you think about the week ahead. Your state of mind is like a roller coaster, so you experience an ebb and flow of high and low in the course of your day, week, month, year, and life. Don't escape. When you feel like the roller coaster is crashing and you're experiencing a low state, the key is to recognize what's going on and not jump off. Don't try to escape. Realize that being in a low state of mind is normal. It's part of being human. Nothing is wrong and nothing is broken. You are just experiencing the natural ebb and flow of thought. You may feel some discomfort or even pain, but stay in the game. You don't have to fix anything. Stop searching for answers. Stop trying to fix something that isn't broken. The minute you recognize that it's not the circumstance making you feel a certain way, that you're not a victim, and having a lower state of mind is normal and not a reason to escape, your state of mind rises, and you're able to ride the wave back up the roller coaster. The more you practice this over time, the more you'll find that your roller coaster hills of thought become less steep. The distance between your highs and lows gets smaller. You still have an ebb and flow, but the ride becomes calmer and less scary. When you realize the roller coaster of thought is normal and there's nothing wrong with you, you feel a shift immediately in your state of mind. That's because the truth emerges and brings more clarity to you and your life. You now better understand how thoughts work. You aren't the only one who experiences the ebb and flow of thought. Everyone does. It's normal to have a range of thoughts, feelings, and emotions. You're simply human. Too often psychology slaps a label on you and makes you feel like something's wrong with you, which causes you to fix what's broken, which leads to more revved up thought, more clutter, more anxiety, and feeling even worse. While the intention is good, the result is often bad. In many cases, the answer is not to fix what's broken, but to remember that you are on a path to wholeness, as we will discuss often in this book. With that said, we've all had moments where it feels like the roller coaster is stuck in a rut at the bottom, and there's no way it's going back up. Even when we remind ourselves about wholeness, we may still feel broken. Because of this, I found that it's very helpful not only to understand the ebb and flow of thought, but also to understand how negative thoughts lower your state of mind and try to keep you down. So before I share other ways to raise your state of mind besides staying on the roller coaster, I want to explain how negative thoughts cause you to spiral downward and lower your state of mind. When you understand the 5 Ds that sabotage you and your mindset, the answer about how to elevate your state of mind will be even clearer and will make more sense. Chapter 2. The 5 Ds. The battle for your mind. There's a battle going on in your mind, and your opponent's weapons of choice is not sticks, stones, bombs, or guns, but thoughts. Thoughts that question your value, purpose, capabilities, goals, future, and worth. These thoughts will often give you doubt. They will weaken you, belittle you, shame you, terrify you, and sabotage you if you let them. They might tell you that you're not good enough, smart enough, attractive enough, powerful enough, or successful enough. They will sometimes tell you the future is hopeless and you should give up. For many, the thoughts try to convince you that the dream you have in your heart is silly and will never be realized. Those dreams are for others, not for someone like you. Negative thoughts might tell you the health diagnosis or the relationship you're in won't improve. They say your past mistakes define you, and they try to load you with guilt, condemn you with shame, and imprison you with unworthiness. These thoughts will lie to you during the course of your life, and at different times will say that you'll never make it, never be loved, never find the right person, never find the right job, never get through this, and never succeed. I know these thoughts well because I've experienced all of them, and I've worked with many people, including some of the greatest athletes and most successful leaders who've experienced these thoughts too. For years, I lost the battle of my mind because I had no idea I was in a battle. If your enemy knows you're in a battle and you don't know it, you will surely lose. But once you realize you're in a battle and understand how it's being waged, You can create a game plan and strategy to win it. This is what I did in my own life. My mission is to help you win the battle as well. Your negative thoughts are not coming from you. First and foremost, it's essential to understand where your negative thoughts are coming from. So let me ask you, do your negative thoughts come from you? If you're like most people, you'll say yes. After all, they're in my head. But if you believe your negative thoughts are coming from you, then I have another question for you. Who would ever choose to have a negative thought? Would you choose a thought that sabotaged you and made you feel unworthy, unqualified, and unloved? Would you ever choose a thought that weakened you and ruined your life? Of course you wouldn't. I wouldn't either. I can recall countless times playing sports or speaking on stage when a thought would pop into my head telling me, don't mess up, you don't have it today, this could go really bad. I certainly didn't choose to have thoughts like that pop into my head, and you are not choosing the negative thoughts that pop into your head. So if negative thoughts are not coming from you, where are they coming from? No one has ever found a thought inside of a brain. I've asked neuroscientists, and they agree they have yet to be discovered there. Negative thoughts come from a spiritual place that invades your mind, soul, just like nightmares. When you're having a nightmare, are those thoughts coming from you? Are you choosing these horrible dreams? No, you would never choose a dream like that. It's coming from the field of bad dreams. It's why so many people have similar dreams. There are certain archetypes of dreams, like the one where you're about to take a surprise test that you didn't study for, and you panic because you aren't ready. That's a whole other book. But the point is that nightmares and negative thoughts are not something you would choose. Yet they're always coming in and being downloaded into our brains. Think of it as the internet cloud of software, and the brain is the hardware where the activation of the thought happens. Once you understand that these thoughts are not coming from you initially and see how your opponent uses negative thoughts to sabotage you with the 5 Ds, you'll be on your way to winning the battle. So let's talk about the 5 Ds now. Doubt. The first D is doubt. This is where negative thoughts begin to break you down. It starts with a thought. Can you really do this? You might fail. Can you trust God? You're going to embarrass yourself and your family if you try this and fail. You'll experience these and hundreds of other forms of doubt that cause you to doubt yourself and everything in your life. You begin to question yourself, lose confidence, and begin to feel weak and powerless. What starts as a seed of doubt grows into a forest of uncertainty, fear, and insecurity. Distortion. The second D is distortion, which is what happens when the truth is altered. In essence, there is a truth of who you are and the power you possess. Then you have these negative thoughts, which are lies, that tell you things about yourself and your future that just aren't true. These lies wreak havoc on you as they accuse you, weaken you, belittle you, doubt you, and do all things I mentioned earlier. It happens very quickly. The thought comes in so fast, you think it's from you. Then you believe it, reinforce it, and it becomes an unhealthy part of your soul that eventually discourages you. Discouragement. The third D is discouragement. This happens when the doubt and distortion, negative thoughts, overpower your mind, seep into your soul, and cause pessimism, apathy, and hopelessness. We don't give up because life is hard. We give up because we get discouraged. We believe the doubt and distortion that we can't win, won't win, and don't deserve to win. We feel defeated, so we stop fighting for what is worthy, noble, and good. If we believe the lie that our negative thoughts are coming from us, and we believe the lies that they tell us, we beat ourselves up for being negative and then feel guilt and shame for the thoughts that were never coming from us in the first place. This makes us even more discouraged and lowers our state of mind to the point where we want to escape and jump off the roller coaster. One of the first people I taught the one truth to is a teenager who was really struggling. He was so discouraged that before I talked to him, he had spent a few nights in the ER because of suicidal thoughts. I asked him if he had a lot of negative thoughts in his head. He said that he had so many. I asked him if they were wreaking havoc on him. He said, oh yeah, they won't stop. They keep bombarding me. They make me want to just give up. Once I taught him how thoughts work and shared the concept of the 5 Ds with him, he understood that his negative thoughts were not coming from him and stopped blaming and beating himself up. He also no longer felt guilt and shame. He learned the truth, stopped feeling discouraged, and everything changed. He experienced a complete 180 and was like a different kid. I recently texted him to check how he was doing. He replied, doing great, Mr. Gordon. High state of mind. He is one of the reasons why I knew I needed to write this book as soon as possible to reach more people like him. After all, if you don't know how thoughts work, the discouragement can become so heavy and feel so insurmountable that you don't want to keep going. That's why you and everyone you know needs to understand how doubt and distortion can lead to discouragement, which can lead to despair. Despair could be an additional D, but since it doesn't happen to everyone, I don't include it as one of the main 5 Ds, although it's important to mention. Distraction. Distraction is the 4th D. A distraction is anything that keeps you from what matters most. There's a great saying, if the devil won't make you bad, he'll make you busy and get you focused on all the things that don't matter instead of what does matter. You'll look at social media and let the opinions of others define you or compare someone else's life to your own. You'll envy someone else's mission and forget your own. You'll let social media and the traditional media tell you to be angry at the world instead of working to make the world a better place. You'll spend a lot of time on distractions, being busy, but not productive. And over time, you'll realize that distractions are the enemy of greatness and a soul-nourishing life. When you're experiencing doubt and discouragement, this often leads you to searching for answers. But unfortunately, it also leads you to choosing temporary relief and not restoration. Relief is a distraction that masks the pain, but restoration nourishes the soul. I'll share more about restoration later in the book. Division. The 5th D is division, which is what happens when you experience doubt, believe the distortions, get discouraged, and find yourself distracted. You feel divided. The root of the Greek word for anxiety means to divide, to separate. I believe this appropriately explains why you feel divided when you feel anxious, and why you feel anxious when you feel divided. You feel separate from yourself, from others, and spiritually from God. The key understanding here is that negative thoughts cause you to feel distracted, divided, and separate, which leads to a lower state of mind. And it also works the other way. When you feel divided and separate, you experience more negative thoughts. It becomes a cycle I'll explain more about a few chapters from now. Negative thoughts divide and cause you to spiral downward. This should all make a lot of sense, since we have seen firsthand how fear, which is a powerful negative thought, divides people, teams, organizations, families, countries, and even the world. Fear separates, weakens, and causes division. If you let the 5 Ds beat you, they can lead to a 6 D, defeat of a team, divorce in a marriage, and demise of your life. We see this happen way too often. People who are anxious, marriages and families divided, teams dejected and defeated, politics and the media creating 2 sides who fight all the time, countries at war. Our outer world reflects our inner world. If we can win the battle of our mind, we will experience more peace in our own lives and in the world. We don't have to let the negativity win. We now know how the 5 Ds try to defeat us, and we can counter them to achieve victory. The good news is that our plan to win the battle is more practical, purposeful, and powerful. Negativity may seem strong because there's so much of it, but it is no match for the plan and power I'm about to share with you. Instead of letting the 5 Ds lower your state of mind, now you'll know how to counter them to win the battle and elevate your state of mind. Chapter 3. Elevate your state of mind. Feed the positive. Over the years, I've written a number of books like The Energy Bus, Positive Dog, Training Camp, Stay Positive, The Power of Positive Leadership, and others that are all about feeding yourself with positivity in order to feed others. They've had a positive impact on a lot of people, but I must confess that at the time, I wasn't sure why they made such a big difference. I knew they help people become more positive, but I didn't know why positivity makes a huge difference. It's like knowing a car runs really well on high-octane fuel, but not knowing why it runs better. What's really happening under the hood and in the engine? Now, years later, since understanding how our state of mind works, it makes so much sense. Where negativity lowers our state of mind, positivity elevates our state of mind. Where negativity creates sludge in our pipeline and engine, positivity is a better fuel that flows smoothly. Where negativity brings you down, positivity lifts you up. As I will explain in Book 3, the brain is an antenna, and you can tune into a positive or negative frequency every moment of every day. When you tune into the positive, it elevates your state of mind. Tune into trust. The answer to doubt is trust, and it's only a thought away. When doubt comes in, choose to trust. Trust in yourself. Trust in those you can trust. Trust in the creator of the universe. Every addiction program believes in a higher power because it's well known that you aren't strong enough on your own. Your will isn't powerful enough. But when you trust and connect with a higher power, you become more powerful than the forces and addictions that can destroy you. As I said, the seeds of doubt will always come in, but you don't have to let them take root in the garden of your mind. Each day you can weed the...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?